All right, good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling today? Did you guys not eat? How are we feeling today? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Well, welcome back. I hope you guys have enjoyed the morning session. You guys network. You met with all the amazing networking representatives and are ready for some even more amazing advice today. I'm very excited to start our afternoon panel, the Creators Conversation. As always, you can find their bios, the speaker bios on the app, and you're going to see a little bit more of the information on the screen behind me. But I'd like to start introducing our speakers. Kwame Amoaku, who is the Deputy Commissioner of the Film Office at the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. Crystal Atwater, who is the Creative Director of Integrated Marketing Communications at Mattel. We actually have a panelist who is a little bit, unfortunately, might be able to make it or not, but we're hopefully that she'll be able to make it. Christine Cortez, who is the founder and executive producer of Edis, and she's also the senior writer producer at BET. And our amazing Wes Jackson, who is the president of Break Arts Media, who is hosting us today. And of course, last but not least, John McLeod, who is associate producer at ESPN, and he's the co-chairman of ESPN Trust, and our amazing moderator and longtime friend of the center, Sabina Gemebredding, who is a coordinating producer and head of race culture at ABC News. Let's welcome them with the biggest round of applause, please. I cannot hear you guys. Do it a little bit more loud. There we go.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? What a great space, right? So I'm Sabina, and Cami there introduced us all. How's everyone doing?
Good. Happy
Pretty
to be
good.
here.
So I
Good.
think before we start, we have such a great, panelists. Like I was really impressed with all of you and where you work and what you do. Will you just tell everyone? We can start with you. What you do and what your job entails.
I'm Crystal Atwater. I am the creative director at Fisher-Price, also known as Integrated Marketing Communications, a little bit of a mouthful. And basically my job is to oversee the creative development of our advertising and our brand assets that we put out into the world.
Kwame?
I'm Kwame Amoku. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Film at the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. My responsibilities include permitting all film production, that's television, feature film, commercial, still photography, red carpet premieres, and Broadway load-ins, as well as promoting the city of New York as a filming destination and also advising the mayor on film policy.
Good afternoon. My name is Wes Jackson. I'm the president here at Brick Arts Media, so I know you all were welcome this morning. But I'm happy to have you all in our building. Hopefully this is not going to be the last time. As a president of the organization, sort of help the day-to-day operations, but primarily focusing on supervising programming, fundraising, and general strategy and vision of the organization.
My name is John McLeod. I'm a producer at ESPN. My job is to tell the story of the storytellers. 98% of what ESPN does is fan-facing, and I am part of the 2% that points my camera and my expertise inward to tell the stories of, hopefully, some of you that will be joining us in the future as storytellers and producers. I've been there almost 10 years, and it's every day we find a new story.
All right, let's start with you, John. That first job, how did you get there? And how did you know that you wanted to work in television? At ESPN, for example.
So ESPN wasn't technically my first job. I'm from Brooklyn, from New York, and oh, we got some Brooklyn. Oh my God, I see you. So I went to Brooklyn College, and my first job was actually with MSG. I was an audience coordinator, and it was a show on MSG Varsity called The Challenge, and it was for brilliant high school students that was just doing that, and I fell in love with, as an audience coordinator, you have to make the crowd look bigger than what it is. I didn't know that thing existed until I was just like, look, I'm here. I'll do whatever I need to. And from being an audience coordinator, I just hung around the directors, the producers, the camera people, learned jib, learned all that other cool stuff, and fell in love with, okay, this is how a television producer tells a story to somebody every single night. I wonder how they tell stories like in increments, and I just hammered them with a bunch of questions, fell in love with getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting to 106 and Park, and leaving at 10 o'clock, and then fast forward, in grad school, worked for the New York Times, interviewed LeBron James, had a completely rush, and I was hooked. You couldn't take me away from it.
So let's just talk about New York Times. That's pretty big, right? How did you get that job?
My mentor, Bill Roden, he wasn't my mentor at the time. He's a Hall of Fame journalist. He worked for the Times for almost 30 years, and he was actually right place, right time, and also speaking up to tell people what you really want to do. He was actually taking a class with my professor, who was one of my favorite professors, and who I helped while I was in grad school. And my professor says to me when I'm walking to class, "You like sports, right?" As I was holding a basketball in my hand. And he was like, "You know about basketball?" And I was like, "Yes, I know a lot about basketball." He was like, "Okay, I have a client. We're gonna, help him produce video." And he put a team together, and I probably like less than a week later, we were in MLB training camp, and I was standing next to guys that I watched on TV and with my mind blowing, and he gave me this one piece of advice that I'll never forget. He said, "You got 60 seconds. And I was like, 60 seconds to do what? And he's like, "You got 60 seconds to be starstruck, and then you can never do it again." I took 30 seconds, I took a deep breath, and I got to work. And he was like, "These are people just like you, and they're here to, you have to do a job just like they're here to do a job, and treat it with that level of professionalism."
Well, thank you. Wes, your first job, what was it?
Well, this is sort of an interesting question because I have an entrepreneurial background. So my first job was really starting my own business. But I think, try to get to the essence of really what you're getting at, the first thing that lit the fire in me was when I was in college. I went to University of Virginia, and there was like a club that produced concerts. And there was a show with De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest. And I joined the committee, the hospitality committee, which means I had to chase people out of buses when they weren't supposed to be there. But one thing there was, I'll never forget this moment. It was in the basketball arena. So if you think about how venues are set up, the back it was only 3/4 of it. So to get around, you had to kind of run about half a mile. So backstage, Q-Tip wanted some tea for his hot water. So I had to run all the way around the arena and come back. And my big brother Rob, who is really my mentor, sort of stops me in the middle of running crazy. And he looks me in the eye and he goes, "You love this, don't you?" And I said, "I could do it every day." And I ran around with this tea kettle, and I realized this behind-the-scenes person I really enjoyed being because I, like many, tried to be a practitioner, don't really have the artistic ability, but I had the same passion for the music and the art, and I realized that that's what I wanted to do. But same thing, sort of fast forward, I come back home, I'm from the Bronx and settled back in Brooklyn. And I started a record label with some of my buddies in an artist management company, and just wanted to continue just to go deep into that. And just a bit of inspiration to people in here. This sort of we went from sitting around my apartment in Charlottesville to a couple of years later sitting in a cab in London. Like, this is our ideas, right? We made this happen off of our passion and our ideas. So that was really the first job that sort of led me to what I do here.
Thank you. Kwame, you're at the mayor's office, pretty big deal. Would love to know your first job, but the job also that led you there.
So the main thing to remember about this business is that it's, and I said this the last time I was here, it's very cosmic, right? The stars need to align perfectly in order for you to get what you want. So for me, my first job was a production assistant job on a music video that I got because I went to college with a guy who I used to put into the films that I was doing in college. So it was the interpersonal relationships, which don't let anybody tell you anything different. It is those interpersonal relationships that are the key to this business. This is a who you know business. That who you know could serve as a web that connects you to all different points, and the stars have to align, but you also need to be aware to be able to see the signs and be able to react instantly. And that's what I did. I saw the signs, I got the job, and then I just started a whole series of jobs. I started out as a production assistant, then worked my way through the call sheet for every non-IATI position possible for the last 30 years, right? So production assistant, then production coordinator, production manager, producer, writer, director, all of those things. And that just happened because I paid attention. I was very diligent about my work, and I got to get these interpersonal relationships that were the key to, you know, everyone here has mentioned a mentor, a person that gave them that break, right? You just have to be prepared when the break comes to take it, because you don't get a whole bunch of those. So when that break comes, you got to be able to take it, be prepared to act on it, and be able to do the best you can. So I did 30 years of film production. The last thing I did is I was the location manager on the NBC show Chicago Fire for about 7 seasons. As a result of that, I got to work with the fire department in the city of Chicago a great deal. So when the guy who was the film commissioner of the city of Chicago was retiring, he thought to reach out to me because I had experience working with municipalities and also with film production. So then I became the commissioner for the city of Chicago. I did that for about 2 years, and then the city of New York reached out to me and asked me to come here to work with them to be the commissioner for film here at the Mayor's Office of Media Entertainment.
Thank you. Pretty impressive. All you guys are very impressive. Crystal, Mattel, we've all heard of that. It's a pretty big job as well. Very impressive panel, guys. So make sure you talk to them after this panel. Your first job.
Sure. So my journey is not quite so different, but a little different than everyone up here. I harassed somebody for my first job, right? I am super persistent, and I came to New York City for college. I went to FIT down in Chelsea, and at the time, I just thought I was going to be a fashion photographer. And I'm a year into my degree, like, ooh, but I'm not. I don't like this. What am I going to do? And so I decided I like music. I like music photography. I could do portraits. I want to work at Vibe magazine. I don't know if y'all know Vibe magazine, but it was really big back then. And then I went through the masthead, which was like the list of everybody who works there, and I found someone who worked in the photo department, and I emailed her every week for a month. Every week. She never got back to me either. And then the day I was going to give up, I emailed her one more time, and she got back to me. Now she is a mentor and a very good friend of mine. And through that, she couldn't hire me. I'm graduating from college, I need money, what am I gonna do? And she had a friend who was working at Women's Health magazine, and they were looking for a photo department assistant. And I went that way, and I got the job there. And 2 years later, my mentor came back and was like, I got a job for you. And that's how that journey started. And then obviously I don't work in print anymore, I work at Mattel. And so from there, the industry changed. And I didn't want this to just be a blip in my life. And so I had to adapt, and I had to expand my skill set. And so I started learning about video production, and then ideation, and how do you create concepts that can carry a campaign. And that eventually led me to a lot of different places, but it led me to the NFL. That really kind of just made me expand my skill set even more, working in very quick, high pressure instances, and then also working on bigger scales, right? Like when you produce things for a one page in a magazine, it's very different than creating assets for a Super Bowl. And so I needed to learn how to scale my skill set, and that's what led me to Fisher-Price, which is based in Buffalo, and then 3-4 years later, this new role as the creative director there.
Well, let's stay with you, Crystal, because I think you may have some really great advice for these students of what they need to know, trying to get that first job, but also if they get that first job, how do they maintain that job?
Sure. You got to be hungry. right? You gotta be hungry. Coming out of college, you don't know what you don't know. But if you have the willingness to want to learn and want to just expand your skill set, that weighs so much more than just words on your resume. People want to know that you're going to work for them and that you're going to grind it out. So when you are trying to land that job, you need to talk to all the people that you can, leverage your board of directors. I told one person that here already, right? The people who are rooting for you. You have your advisors at your college, you have your personal board of directors, you have your family. If you know people who work in those industries, you need to leverage all the connections that you can. But then when you land that first job, you need to be hungry. If there are stretch projects, you should take it. If there are things you don't know, you should raise your hand to learn them. And if you are in a situation that is professionally uncomfortable at work, just because you're out of your element, that's where you need to be. And you need people need to see you work. And when they know that you're going to deliver results, that's when they come to you for, I got this hard project, but I know you're going to be able to handle it. You all were built for this. So you just got to stand in that space.
Kwame?
Well, I double, second everything she said. I mean, but that desire and that hunger is paramount because competition is thick. So you need to, one, distinguish yourself from everyone else by being the most excellent you can be. I know for me personally, when I'm looking for someone, I'm looking for somebody that I can depend on, someone that I don't have to worry about, because once I put something in that person's hands, I want that person to be able to handle that from the cradle to the grave and not have to worry about that. So you need to be able to reassure the people that you're working with that you are capable and able to handle any and all type of situations that might come up. But I would say mastering the skill sets that you need to do the actual work is key. Right? So many people want to skip steps. So many people want to advance without necessarily doing the work. And it is that work that is the key because that is what you're judged by. And so if your skill sets are not up to par, all the hustling and parlaying and interpersonal relationships in the world is not going to help you when it comes time to put up or shut up, you got to shut up. So just make sure that you're keeping your skill sets sharp as well as your interpersonal skills.
It's really, really great advice. I always say that. Do not skip steps. Wes?
Yeah, I think this is all, again, I just and one everything. I think what some of the Kwame said about the networking is important. It's stunning now as I sit in this role, how many people I met, 25, 30 years ago. Some of you may know there's a DJ named DJ Spinner who does all like Spike Lee's parties, and once upon a time I wanted to be a filmmaker until I realized I can't handle those long days, and it's way too tedious for me, so shout out to you. But I wanted to work for 40 Acres right up the block, right? That was every young black man's dream. And now there's people that when I was interning at 40 Acres, and DJ Spinner does, Spike's parties now, and I produce records with Spinner, and then now we book Spinner at Celebrate Brooklyn. Then he reconnects me to Spike as we're doing Do the Right Thing at Celebrate Brooklyn. You realize we were all in my one-bedroom apartment with no air conditioning, back in like '98. And now we're all sitting here, he's Spike's guy, I'm here. So I would say that a lot of the people that are going to be pivotal in your career are probably sitting next to you right now. You tend to maybe lionize or romanticize us on this panel, but we're in another space, right? We have other challenges, other difficulties that we have to manage, and there's always going to be a little bit of a separation. But you got to start building it, brick by brick, with the people, in this room. Why I really love this event. I would say its second thing is what you also heard before is that to get that career, it's going to be a squiggly path, right? You started in print, and now you're in consumer goods. It seems strange until you listen to your story, and it makes total sense. So the big lie is that it's this straight shot up the mountain, and it's a squiggly thing where you fall off, and you have to pick yourself back up, and be comfortable with that. Don't believe YouTube influencers. That's not how it works, right? It's trials and tribulations. And the last thing I would say is when you're in that first job, I think you should develop a healthy relationship with failure. And I'm not saying you should go out and fail, but newsflash, you're gonna fall on your face, you're gonna get embarrassed, you're gonna get chewed out, you're gonna go home thinking about, I can't do this. Get over it. What are you gonna do after that? And as an entrepreneur, I've failed so many times. A lot of times people like to get up here and talk about, I did this and I'm awesome at that. I much am more interested. I'm gonna tell you how I lost, $60,000 because of hubris in 2013. Those are the better stories, because I feel like when you're succeeding, that's what you're supposed to do. So there's really that's not fun. But have a healthy relationship with failure, because you can't avoid it. But I want people, when I'm thinking about people who I've seen move up sort of the chain of command here at any other organization I've run, is people who can sit there and say, my bad, that one was on me, right? Who sent this file out? Who made this mistake? You know what, stop. I'm not gonna hide, I'm not gonna blame you or throw somebody under the bus. That was me. I'm gonna take the weight, punish me, and then please tell me what I did wrong so I can move forward. It's just such a rare trait. But you're gonna fail in that first job. It's totally fine. It's how you respond to that failure that's gonna get you to the next job and get you the same thing, looking for those things. I'm sure something went wrong in Chicago and you handled it. And that's why they say, give me that cat, because something's gonna go wrong. I was saying to Kate today, she said, how was your day? I was like, only 2 things went wrong today. So it's a good day, right? So you gotta be prepared for it.
Well, Wes, let's stay with you about that. You talk about challenges, and we all will have challenges coming into a new job or a job that we've been in for a long time. Tell us about what advice you can give to these young ones here, how to deal with some of those challenges. And maybe you can tell us about one without, being too detailed.
Yeah, without snitching on myself.
Yes, that part.
I would think I would just sort of build on what was said, is this concept of managing up, right? A big challenge here, we're a nonprofit. I have a board of 27 people that in some version are my boss, and I don't know how 27 bosses is difficult, but they're not, because nobody really owns Brick, so it's a very strange relationship. But one of the big mistakes I made in this job was, how do I sort of pass that flow of information up the chain of command? And also I see people having struggles, sending me really bad news. But I think it's that thing of, again, the bosses may think that we're experts and we have wonderful titles, this is a very impressive panel, but, half of the time, I don't know I don't know what I'm doing, right? You're in here just trying to maintain, I know what I should be doing, I know how it's supposed to work, but when the details hit, it's a mess. We need the help of the people sort of below us in that chain. So the biggest challenge I've had is, how do I do that without looking weak, without looking incompetent, fighting imposter syndrome and all of that madness, but really listening to people and developing those relationships and being a little bit vulnerable and saying, this is what went wrong and this is immediately how I have the solution, really to the problem. But I think that's the challenge that at your level, because you're just getting started, so you think you're very, very low, and you think this is very dictatorial American hierarchy going in here, but the lie is that it flows both ways, because without the junior members, without that entry-level person, the presidents, the commissioners can't get it done. So begin to learn how to manage that flow up the chain, so that you get good energy coming back down from your supervisors.
Absolutely, and I think that every step you take will come with you throughout your whole career, and that's very, very important. John, what advice can you give? And also, can you tell these students here, what can they do to stand out, getting that job? You work at ESPN. Everybody knows ESPN. It's pretty hard to get a job there.
Let me say, I feel like I'm in the audience listening to y'all. And
Same.
I was like,
Me too.
golly, that's good. I was like, I wish I had a notepad. I'd write that down. I think one of the biggest things we learn to understand when you get to a certain level is that your job is to solve a problem. I've said this multiple times. A resume is a rap sheet of problems that you've solved over the years. A post to a job is a declaration from a company that there's a problem that they need solved and that they are willing to pay you to solve it. Wes alluded to it a few moments ago, and it's the biggest and the smartest thing you can do is learn how to solve problems for your boss and your boss's boss. You get paid to do the job in which you're at right now. That does not incite or mean you deserve a promotion. What deserves a promotion, because why, break it down, why would someone promote you if you're dominant on this level, but you want to get to this level if you haven't done the things on that level? You must be able to effectively know what it is, what problems are at their level, how can you solve them, and how can you repeat the process of being the person, the resource for those that are decision makers. The other thing is learning how to effectively communicate. Communication is one of the most powerful things you can learn. And what we're taught is we're supposed to go to school, get a degree, and then the job will come. I have never been asked about my degree. I will never be asked about my degree, and neither will you. You're going to be asked about your experience. Can you do this job? Can you do it? Do you have a commitment to do this job? What type of person are you? And then to wrap it up, the biggest thing that you could, if you don't remember anything else, remember, okay, I must learn how to communicate, and that is when you don't understand and when you do understand. Mistakes are inevitable. You're never going to avoid them. I am in love with the attacking and going with failure because I've made 10 million of them. I made 4 just coming here. So like, it's never going away. So the better relationship you have with that and understanding that that is inevitable, the faster and the further you will go. You are not going to get far if you try to avoid mistakes, especially if you try to avoid mistakes and don't communicate. People, they can get mad at you all they want, but ask questions. Questions after question to make sure you understand so that when you get and start to go down the road, you are somebody that they can trust. You ask all the right questions, and when you run into a roadblock, you ask another one, and that's how you get the answers.
How can they stand out also getting that first job? You know, a lot of students that reach out to me say, you know, I applied to that job posting, you know, I emailed them. You know, what are some of the things that they can do, Crystal?
Well, you got to break through the noise, right? Like job posts, you see them, thousands of people, if not millions of people see them. So you have to figure out how you break through that noise. Look at the job post A, right? You should know that if you're posting for a job, and then look at, as John said, right? Like what are they willing to pay you for, and what experience do you have? And then you have to go and see, is there anyone in your network that can help you get that leg up, right? Did you meet anybody here today that maybe like works at that company or is a second or a third connection that can connect you and get your name in that inbox? And then because I work in a very visual world, does your resume stand out? I know I've talked to a few people today, and it's very kind of just standard Word document template, but is that you? Like, as a hiring manager, I have like 30 minutes dedicated to looking at these resumes, and you want to be one that I remember for how it looks, but also for what's on that page. And so I want to be able to get a sense of who you are from there and what I'm getting and who I'm hiring. And then your cover letter can be that too. Your cover letter is the best representation of you as a person that you can give, but it needs to be more than just tactical things. It needs to be, I am this person, I worked here, and this is what I brought to the table. Here's what I'm going to do for you. And here are my skill sets, here are my strengths, and here are my weaknesses, right? There's a beauty in knowing your weak points, because that tells me that you're willing to put that out there, be vulnerable, but then also develop them and become better. We are all not who we were yesterday. We are constantly evolving. We are constantly becoming better, expanding our skill sets. And it's important to know what you know and what you don't know, and then be vulnerable with that information. I'm always going to go for the person who's going to tell me who they are up front versus the person who I really see 6 months after I hire them.
Kwame?
Film production is interesting, right? Because most of the time, those jobs aren't posted, right? You don't pick up a paper or a document and they say, hey, be a part of a film crew. Let's just be realistic about that. Those are who you know jobs, right? So if you want to stand out, You need to develop those interpersonal relationships and shine in those interpersonal relationships and make sure people know that you're ready. You're ready, and put something in their mind that distinguishes you from everyone else, because the competition for these spots is very, very, very intense, right? So what's gonna make, if I'm hiring for a crew, first of all, chances are it's gonna be a referral. I'm gonna keep it super real with y'all. The chances of me hiring someone that no one knows anything about or that no one can vouch for is very small. Because the things that you're responsible for in a film crew are so vital that even a mistake that a production assistant would make can sometimes cost you $1 million. So therefore, everybody that's on the deck has to be proven, has to be someone you can have faith in. Chances are someone's gonna give you the nod. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Donnie Brasco, right? Somebody in the mob's gotta give you the nod before they let you in. Real talk, you gotta be a friend of ours. I'm just keeping it real for you, right? Because that's the film business, right? It's the show business, right? So you need to make sure that you are showing people who you are and what you're capable of, right? Do the little job for your friend that for free. Make the connections with people in the business that are working, right? And develop those interpersonal relationships so when that time comes when they need that extra person, they think of you. That's the key, right? I'm gonna tell you something, real talk, the film business is a complete racket to keep as many people out as possible. Because the smaller the pool of work, the more the people that are in that pool will work. The larger the pool, the less people will work. So it's all based on seniority and relationships. Develop those relationships. Some of you, like I said, some of the people you're sitting next to right now can get you your first job because you helped them on a project that they were doing. Those are the keys to standing out, to making that first break. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, a resume can say anything. And in this business, I can't trust that. I can only trust who I get vouched for, someone tells me, hey, if I'm gonna take a chance on a person, it's because that person stood out to me in some type of way.
Give me 3 ways that I can stand out to you to get that first job. I don't have that many relationships. I'm just starting off, you know. I moved here from another country. What are 3 things that I can do?
1, be early. I didn't say on time. I said early. Because in the film business, early is on time. 2, make sure that if you say you're gonna do something, that you do it. Because the moment I see any type of flakiness whatsoever, you are out. Immediately. Show me that you're going to do what you're going to do and that you're on point. And the third thing is, this is a business of personalities. In the creative space, I only want to create with people that I feel comfortable with and that I feel like I could have interpersonal relationship with, because I'm creating. It's not a corporate environment. Well, it is, but it's not a type of corporate environment where that's not important. No, it's important that I can deal with you, that we can communicate and that we feel comfortable with one another. So just make sure that you're always putting your best foot forward personality-wise, because nobody wants to work with somebody that stank.
I know John wanted to say something.
I want you to take everything Carmen just said and make sure you wrote that down, because that's the stuff that people don't tell you until 10 years later. The thing that I also wanted to say, 2 things. One thing is, if you don't have experience, create experience. If you don't have experience, create it. Everyone has a cell phone with a camera on it. If you're in the film business, everyone has something that you can create to start to build up the resume. The second thing that you can do is, there are meetups all over the place where people are gathering to talk about the thing that you want to be around. And the way you start to build from nothing is meetup.com. There are meetups for things that are virtual, in person, in your area. If you have to take a train to somewhere else where you can go or be around the people to start to infuse the possibility of landing that first job. So you're not, just because you don't have experience, doesn't mean there's no hope at experience. You can still create it and you can still find it. And when you take what Kwame just said and you apply those things, absolutely someone is going to say yes.
Can I add one thing to the list, Kwame? It's ask what's next, right? The worst thing in the world is to do your task and go sit down and be like, all right, I'm done. You got to ask what's next. And then if that person doesn't have anything else to give you, then you go ask someone else. But when you're in these roles, you have to stay working. That's what makes you stand out.
What else can I do? If not, find something to do, right?
Yep.
Wes?
Yeah, I think this is all great. I think there's the three things. Do your research. I don't know how many people come and say they want the job, and then you start asking them details about the operations of Brick. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you guys had a TV station. Like, goodbye, thanks. But you're out. You literally don't care enough. I used to, before this job, I was a professor at Emerson. I used to sort of teach this. Sometimes you're treated like a date, right? You have to take some interest in the other person. If you want to get that second date, find out, right? If I want to get on a date with Kwame, I'm going to ask you, like, what's his favorite movie, right? If I know it's homeboy. So I bring it up in conversation. So he understands, like, oh, wow, you really pay attention. You have some level of love for what I do. Makes you stand out. I think the same thing that, you sound like my old fraternity brother, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, don't be late. You come late, you might as well just turn right around, is a simple way to stand out. But when I want to come out my office and see you sitting there and change the dynamic and be like, oh, snap, am I? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm 5 minutes behind, and then it changes the whole tone of the conversation. The other thing I would say you were talking about your resume, the communication. I was an English major, and my dad, who's my other real mentor, when I went to UVA, didn't have any of these programs, said you got to be able to communicate what's in your head and get it out. So by reading and writing all of these papers, I can spit that random thought out of here. So when you get to that interview, be prepared to tell your narrative and spin your narrative in a compelling way, where people are not looking at their watch like, okay, I got one of my next meetings at 3 o'clock, let's wrap this up. And I think the last thing I'll add on is it's a team. At least here, it's a team. So I'm also assessing, are you going to fit in with everybody else? Because this is, if this was my exec team, this is my squad. This is the people I'm going to war with. If you join that team and then I got to spend 6 hours with Kwame because, Crystal's, annoying, I'm like, that completely.
It happens.
But I'm not implied, I'm just using examples here, of course. But that is something that can sink the whole ship. But if I come in here, think about this is going to be your supervisor, and I can see this person is going to be a good match. I want to feel that. Because most of the things, the other lie is that 90% of you can learn, right, of what we're doing. We're not in here building rockets, quite frankly. Like you say, you got a phone, you know how to tell a story. I'll tell you how to run the jib and all this other stuff after time. But we really want to know you. You're selling you as a person. And I would say just, lastly that, I talked about my job as a fundraiser. It'd be surprised, you give them reports and financial reports and 990s, and people look and you be like, I like you, Wes. I'm going to invest in you as a person. I trust you. So let's go ahead and rock. It's the same thing with a job. I'm hiring you. We spend a lot of time. I spend more time with folks in this building than with my own family, right? And if I don't really want to be with you that long, why would I ever hire you? So you got to communicate all these sort of soft skills, I think, in that interview.
Absolutely. And of course, you all know to get that internship, that fellowship, to get that experience also before your first job. What excites you about the future in each business? Crystal?
I think y'all gonna change the world. I think that the way that most industries have been functioning for the last, since they've been around, quite frankly, have been fairly toxic. And what I see with the younger generation coming through, you all have boundaries. You are setting the ways in which you want to work and showing employers and corporations how you want to be loved. And it is something that has been needed, especially in corporate America, for a very long time. So I think that once you stand in that space and that truth, you all will impact on such a great level what the world, the output of the world. And the other thing that I'm really excited about in the industries is this. This was not around when I was looking for my first job. There was not a space that I could go and get advice and communicate with other leaders that look like me. And so I am just really blessed and really impressed that this is something that you all can come to and take part in, because we need you. We need you. And it's hard, but we're up here so that you all can be up here too. So I'm really excited about you.
She better preach.
Kwame? Yes, yes. And I'm going to ask you another question, and you can add to Crystal as well, Kwame. How important is it to be us, a person of color, in the industry right now?
I mean, we're all the rage right now. I mean, I'll say this: when I talk about diversity in the industry, first of all, my goal is so that the film crews in New York look like the subway cars in New York, right? That this is the most diverse city in the world, probably, and so there's no reason why the film crews shouldn't reflect that. Also, when I make this argument, and I'm with the studios and the networks, and I'm talking about diversity, I never frame it as a social justice issue. I frame it as an economic issue, right? Because you have content creators that are people of color that need to work with people that are culturally sensitive to the material that they're creating. So if you have a cast with people of color, then it's probably good that you have someone that knows how to do their hair properly, or to do their makeup properly. Or if you have you're decorating a space that's occupied by people of color, then probably want a production designer that understands the aesthetic, right? Those are business decisions. That has nothing to do with social justice. And that's the way that I'm framing it, and that's the way that we should all frame it, because we are an important part of this economy, and therefore that should be reflected in the workforce.
John, and I'll go to you, Wes, after. Inclusive content, how important is it to drive that at ESPN and other,
I say it's absolutely mandatory. It is, you can't, if you're going to tell a story, you can't just tell the story from one side. You got to tell it from all angles, from all sides, from as many people as you possibly can, because if you're only speaking from one angle, you're missing so many other stories. It's important to understand that, for example, one of the reasons why I love my job and do it with so much passion is because I will never run out of stories. Because my job is to tell the stories of the storytellers. You know how many storytellers are in Disney? Over 400 and something thousand. I will, if I wanted to be, I can't do it for the rest of my life, but I will be employed forever, because you can tell 10 angles from almost anybody. But it's important to ask the questions. It's important to dive into the history and the stories of everyone, and then create a space and environment where you can hand that story off and let people digest it in their time, in their space, in their way. Your job is to create, if that's what you do. That's my job. I create the story, and I let you digest it on your way in your own time. But I am not going to change because you are uncomfortable with the story, and that goes for everyone. I'm going to create it and then leave it there for you. I'm going to give it my best, and it is our responsibility as creators to tell all of the stories, all of them. Nothing should be left out. Tell all of them. Because by telling a story, you may unlock another generation's future because they saw themselves in your story.
Absolutely. And Wes, you're the president of BRIC. This space, this community, how important is it? And why are you here? Why is this important?
Yeah, I think this is what we're based on. The core of what we do, the free concerts in the park, public access, TV. We never had the opportunity for these isms and this wickedness, right? We always were here to tell everybody's story. That's why we exist. So I'm here because the whole place is imbued with that energy. So it's great that we don't even have to convince a DEI committee that maybe, let me explain to you why having black women on set might be, at Brick, we did that 40 years ago. So that's why I'm very proud of this place. But I think I just echo all of this. I would say to Kwame, I think the social justice and the profitability, I would say both. Social justice is profitable. Let's just be honest. If you keep making the same old ESPN content for the 25 to 40-year-old beer-drinking white male in Midwest, you're going to run out of customers. I'm an old, entrepreneur. I need more customers. I need new people. My wife and I did an event for 15 years called the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, and we did a bunch of classics. We did, De La, Tribe, and all this other stuff. And then 10 years in, I said, we done run out of the legends. I saw everybody who I ever grew up listening to. And then I get pitched Wiz Khalifa. I get pitched Kendrick Lamar. I get pitched Mac Miller. And I said no, because I was so stuck in what I liked. And it was the dumbest move, back to failure, the stupidest thing I ever did. You've got to have space for more business. And telling stories or putting people, or like you're saying, having somebody who knows how to do, Viola Davis's hair is going to move you more tickets. It's going to increase market share. So this is not a handout, to be us, what we're doing. Another thing you said, Kwame, that we're in vogue now. I think we've been in vogue since day one, right? They've been copying our style, from it's only about time it's time for us to demand our slice at the pie. And not because of some guilt, some this, that, and the third. I still feel bad about, what happened with George Floyd. That's fleeting for some. The truth is that social justice is we demand this and we deserve this. And it'll be good for everybody, right? When you see, black women or women of color or a trans person or a queer person shining, that's good for society. And eventually that winds up as a business owner. It's good for business. And I used to say this when I was running, the racism, the ageism, the transphobia, I just never quite got it. I said, I'm selling records. Who do I care who you praying? You going to mosque on Friday afternoon or you going to temple on Friday night? At some point, do you or do you not like Nas? If you like Nas, then we could be friends, right? And then if I go to church on Sunday and you go to the mosque on Friday, tell me about the mosque. It makes me a better person. The interpersonal connections. I don't have to be you to appreciate you. So I don't want to get too much on it, but we talk about it every day. It's good for business, and anything otherwise is the real insult. And I just do want to speak upon what you're excited about. What Crystal said, I am excited about y'all. I'm excited about this event because it didn't exist. We were out in the wilderness, trying to find somebody who could do it. And now that we've all up in here and donated our time to this cause, I'm happy to be here to serve you all.
Thank you. So we're going to wrap soon, and I know students may want to line up and do a Q&A. You can ask questions directly to the panelists. But before we go, John and I actually work for the same company. I just wanted everyone to just mention to the students where they can find a job. Each of you, where they can go, if that's on the website. For us, it's disneycareers.com. Just want to make sure that you guys write that down because that's easy, and all of our jobs are there. Just like John said, in our company, we have so many different, shows and platforms, Freeform, ABC News, and such. So that's where you can find your first internship or fellowship or a job there. So you guys know. Crystal?
Mattel has a career page, right? It's Mattel, like Seema's in the crowd, she'll tell me the real one, but it's like MattelCareers.com or careers@Mattel.com, something like that. But there are many brands that you can work for, right? I happen to work for Fisher-Price, but there's Barbie, there's Mattel as a brand, there's Hot Wheels, there's American Girl. There are all kind of roles in each of those brands. So, don't be too starstruck. Like, I want to work for Barbie. Like, there's money to go around. There's jobs to be had if you can expand your horizons.
Kwame?
So for the film office, it's in the NYC jobs page, the city jobs page is how you can apply to work for the film office. For film production, I would say start with the Made in New York production assistant program. Tons of success stories out of there. Tons of, if you don't have a lot of experience in production, I would say that's your first step. Made in New York production assistant program.
I don't know, Wes, if you
Yeah,
have
what, we
advice.
used to do the Made in New York in here, so I'm gonna be talking to you after that, because we lost it during COVID. So that's a great program that we support. But we have a similar, you go to Brick, click on the things, jobs tab will drop down. But also, obviously, you're in our building. Anyone you see with one of these pins on works in here. There's a great sister upstairs, Gabriel, who runs our, is one of our deputy people and culture folks. So you can see people walking around right now. But you can go to our website and find it out. But also, we do support, particularly Kwame's office, so we can also route you to other people in the space.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to have some students line up, but everybody, relationships, don't skip steps, work hard, make sure that you guys know to make a commitment to your jobs. But please, if you have questions of the panelists, line up so we can ask a few questions. We have some time. Step up. Yeah. Hi. How are you?
Hello. Hi. My name is Chrishane Francis. I just recently graduated from a CUNY school. I finished up my comm degree, and I'm on the verge this summer to decide which law school I want to go. And I'm taking a cue from Kwame's book. He's standing out. So first of all, I love the melanated picture that's on the stage. It means a lot, so thank you guys. And my question is for Kwame. Kwame, your role in supporting and promoting film production in Chicago, how do you balance the needs of local communities with the demand of large film projects? And what strategies have you found most effective in fostering positive community relations?
Well, I always let production know that the key to successful relationship is to engage with the community so that they feel like they're a part of the project and they're not just being inflicted with the project. So, for instance, we just did a Spike film up in the Bronx, and Spike made an effort to hire people from the community as background as well as production assistants. We try to support local businesses, try to support churches and community centers to use them as support as part of the infrastructure of the shoot. I'm working on trying to reduce the size of the footprint for the working trucks to, you don't need a 52-foot semi-truck to light a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, right? So trying to kind of scale that down. And then just working with the electeds, the community boards, and the people to try to soften the blow as much as we can. And also, what I like to do is if an area gets too saturated, I put it on what's called a hotspot, where I'll kind of limit film production in that area until it can kind of like calm down a little bit.
Next question. I can't see anything, so you guys have to step up. Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon, how are you? My name is Gaila. I completed my master's in media studies in Pratt last year. Thank you all for speaking with us. I know you all come from a diverse range of professional backgrounds, but one thing that stood out to me as kind of a mutual experience is the importance of narrative storytelling in everything that you do. Oftentimes, a lot of the stories that need to be told are the most challenging to digest. You receive a lot of resistance either from your audience or from people higher up on the chain of command in production. Has there ever been a story, a product, a service, a narrative that you've felt really needs to be told or shared with the public, but in the face of resistance, and you haven't wanted to buckle? How have you navigated that kind of space to still make sure that that story is told, that space gets a platform?
What I'll say is two roadblocks we face every single time when you work for a powerful company, and it's their brand and how they look, and then their responsibility to their fans. Navigating that, for me, is twofold. Is one, first hurdle is getting the decision makers to understand the purpose. And once you can get them to understand the purpose of why we're telling this story, then you move on to hurdle two, which is how are you going to show it? You mentioned the aspect of, getting uncomfortable. If you look at Andscape, a division of ESPN and ABC, and they tell one of the executives that was there was Raina Kelly. She is a storyteller that says, you're going to be uncomfortable, and the audience is going to be uncomfortable, but we're still telling the story. There has to be a level of determination, but also a delicate balance that you strike where you don't make people so uncomfortable that we can't tell a follow-up story. So it's getting the decision makers to understand the why and purpose, and most of the time, it's a business decision for them. They need to know, hey, will this have implications if it goes wrong? So.
I think also the importance of a story, right? It has
Impressing
to also be
upon them.
relatable, you know? Why would anyone care? Why should we care? So I think that's also important. But I think the importance of the story is very, very important.
And I'll add to that, like, especially with product, is knowing your demographic, right? Every story is not meant for everyone. And that is something as you're going through and you're pitching these stories or products or items, it is on you to know who your demographic is and who you're talking to and explain that to your leadership while you might not understand it. Here is who will. Here is who this is for, and here's what they're going to get from this, and this is why it's important to them. And then you can come back with, and here's how y'all gonna make these ducats if this is who we talking to.
Thank you so much. Next person.
Hi, thank you guys for being here. My name is Shelby. I'm a freelance writer and social media editor, so I write for Vice, Essence, and I just secured a social job with Vice yesterday.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
As creatives, it's a two-part question. As creatives, where do you see the gig economy going, and do you think it's sustainable? So that's my first question. And then two, as someone, Crystal, who pivoted from editorial, Wes, someone who was an entrepreneur, when did you find it time to go back into a corporate space and just not rely on your own ability, own income, things like that?
The real answer is when I ran out of money and I needed a job. But I mean, you got to figure it out for you, right? Like at some point, I wanted to be able to put down roots and I wanted to figure out what my impact could be. My impact as a freelancer, while it was important, was a little bit smaller than my impact sitting in a corporate space, running a department and running a team and wanting to impact change. It was easier for me to do that and be the person able to make those decisions of who I wanted to be on my team and diversify the skill set of the people on my team. But money did lead that. And then
Yeah, I would say, keep it real, it was failure, right? This is not going right, so I go back to school, right? I went to the new school. I think the sister before, I had got my master's in media studies because I needed some time to reassess. So again, sometimes that trauma or the failure launches you back in. And again, keeping it real, I had, when we had our third kid, the entrepreneur up and down, I got tired of it, right? I needed some stability, so I went and got the professor gig and then came back in here. So as you get closer to where we are in a career, real life will begin to guide those decisions, where I think you should all be as adventurous as you can now. Because again, as my dad said, they don't get any easier, once the mortgages and the daycare costs come. But to your first question about the gig economy, I may be a little bit biased because this is only the second real job where I got paid every 2 weeks, no matter, that I ever had. So I was always eating what I killed, since I was, 20 years old. So it's not strange to me. It seems very natural. I don't see this country broadening the safety net or making it easier. So I don't see it stopping. But I will say this, is that as I sit in here, as the president of this organization, that hustle from the gig economy, it doesn't go away once you get the straight job. And I think it actually is a great skill set to keep on, because no matter what, I'm still out there hustling, fundraising, and if I fall asleep at my job, trust me, it will happen. It'll be a little longer for that elephant to die, but being a hustler, I cannot say how that's never a bad thing. But I do not expect, Barack Obama ain't coming through that door to help you no more, right? It's gonna be rough.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so much. And let's do one question, guys, so everybody can ask a question. All right, thank you.
Let me hold this up.
Tall guy, yeah. Also, Brick dropped a bunch of pamphlets. I'm a Brick student, that's why I'm here. So make sure to take free classes in production and get your chops up, because it's amazing the programs they have here for like cheap, for not expensive, so. Yes. So my name is Dejan Tesfik-Yorgis. I'm a sketch comedian, improviser, and I write for a kids show on PBS. Opportunities at Brick have let me get more comfortable behind the camera as well as in front of, to wear many hats and learn the trade on my own dime and time. So my question probably for the panel is, with the ability of wearing so many hats to get to a finished, let's say, indie film product, comedy project, whatever your finished product is, what do you look for in a jack of all trades, writers and producers, versus someone who only specializes in the specific job you're hiring for?
It's a question for you, Wes.
Yeah, I think, well, shout out, thank you for promoting our classes upstairs. You can also average $5 a course, so we are here to support you all. Again, my bias as an entrepreneur, I do look for that jack of all trades. Specialists don't make sense to me, because it's not a specialized world, and it's an ever-evolving world. I need somebody, it's fine to have a core skill set, but you need to be able to adapt that skill set to the challenge that pops up any day. So somebody says, well, listen, I just do lighting. I cannot help you, with the mics at all. There's a certain amount of respect that you have to have, but the person says, well, I did a little bit of audio at some point. I took a class upstairs so I can help, is infinitely more valuable. It's the danger of being exploited, and then you're doing two jobs and getting paid for one, which I have to, really avoid. But again, my entrepreneurial ways is nothing is guaranteed. You need to be adaptable. Now, jack of all trades, master of none is if you go too far, right? Then you're just an empty suit, just running your mouth, right? So not this. Listen, we got suits, so listen. That's because you made fun of us short guys by lifting up the mic. But no, you gotta have that core skill set and then be able to add on to it. But don't be so diverse that we don't really know who's really there underneath.
Thank you. Next question.
I'm actually going to move this down because I'm short. So my name's Imani. I'm from Towson University, just graduated. My question is actually for Sabina and Crystal. So within this industry of media marketing and a woman of color, what are some of the challenges you guys face in your reality of data life, and how do you overcome those?
One of my biggest challenges is probably people's perception of me, right? Like the whole angry black woman trope is real in the spaces that you're in, right? And so providing cultural awareness, I struggle with saying the term education because it's not my job to educate anybody, right? But it's awareness on how I want to be loved and how I want to be treated, and making sure that people understand that I should be allotted the same grace to be direct and be firm without being perceived as being angry and have an attitude.
I agree with her 100%. Perception is the number one. When I first started in the business, I thought, I'm going to deliver, I'm going to be the best, and, everyone's going to know my name. That's how I was. And that was perceived by some that I was aggressive and, had a bad attitude. And I realized that also the way I was perceived was because of my deliverables, because that's who I was. I was competitive, I'm still competitive. So I think you learn as you go. I've been in the business for a long time, more than 22 years. Actually, I started when I was 5, so everyone knows. But yeah, I think the perception is the one thing, and I think I learned, and it took some time, but I think having mentors in the business is very helpful. It'd be great to have, a black woman mentor, which I didn't have for a long time in the business, and I wish I had sooner. But I think that's really important, to have mentors that you can, guide. They can guide you through it, because how you're perceived, how you show up matters, because that's also going to matter when you're going to get that next job.
Thank you.
Wait, one more thing though, and don't take the bait, because I feel like there's a lot of gaslighting that happens, right? And so you have to understand your triggers, and then you have to work towards not being triggered.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for all of this. I'm taking lots of notes. My name is Miranda. I just graduated from NYU last month, and it's inspiring to see people really doing the thing. So I'm curious, just, this was already touched upon, but how do you all kind of make those asks and try to push for, we want to tell these diverse stories and do that social impact work? My major was in sociology, and I have a minor in business of entertainment and media. And how do you sort of pitch that in the corporate speak, that it's not just a niche thing or a flash in the pan, or, I'm hearing that sort of a lot of projects aren't getting like greenlit anymore, and sort of the DI push we had in the wake of George Floyd, everyone's like, okay, we're done with that. So I'm kind of curious with experiences with that.
I will say that I look at it from a very literal sense. How do the people that are in control make decisions? And one of the things I look at is, Crystal brought it up, is the demographic. I look at our audience. All right, who's watching our stuff? How long are they staying, and what are they watching the most? And then I build a story around that audience. Because one rule that I have is when I want to do something or get something done, I make it unavoidable. And the rule of making something unavoidable is checking off the boxes around all of the things. So yes, I did the research on my demographic. Yes, I did the research on this company, what the type of fans we go after. Yes, I do see, industry research about this this uptick in this topic. So it makes sense. So tell me why it's no.
Oh, yeah.
And then you force them to get real and say, well, we don't know if we have the budget. Nope, I already did the research. I found somebody else to pay for it. So tell me why it's still a no. And then it's like, well, what about, it's like, nope, actually, I brought somebody else in who can take care of this, this, and this. Tell me why it's a yes. And you wait. Because a lot of times they will find out and try to figure it out, and once they realize, let's bring somebody else in. I've had that 10 million times.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. Let's bring this person in so we can say the same thing again because I've done all my research and work.
I would say I'm really proud of ABC News because we do have a race and culture unit, and our race and culture unit is pretty amazing with the the content that we push every single day. But the best thing about ABC is that not only our unit do the inclusive content, all of us do, all the shows, all the producers, and I think that has now sort of spread across the company, which is really, really amazing. But one thing that we are doing, I think in our unit specifically, is getting that skill set so we can produce those stories. Because some people say, we may not have resources for this, we don't have the budget for that. It's okay. Actually, we can shoot it. We can do it. We can write it. We can edit it.
Right, yeah.
We can put it together. What happens when you do that? You become essential.
Right.
And there's almost no way to say no, right? So.
Can I was going to say, is data. We live in a data-rich world. We had an event here a couple months ago about all the big data that you have. Overwhelm, I agree with John, overwhelm them with data. Because this is not, maybe back when we were your age, it was a bit of sentimental, like, but these poor, black babies, no one's telling their story. You have so many more tools, right? From monetization to market penetration to market share. Don't be afraid of the data because you're quote unquote creative. Because all these Spotify, all these streaming services, they're just databases with a cool UI. Yeah. So we're in a data world right now. So you need to get with add that to your arsenal.
Oh, I love it. No, thank you. I'm going to
Thank
attach
you.
my thesis more
Great
often with
question.
all my data.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Fatoumata Zongo. I'm from Rutgers University, New Jersey. My question is related to my person. I am an African immigrant, French speaker, and I dream to work in media here. And I'm a non-traditional. I am a mother, and like I would say, single parent. Usually, as a single parent, it's very hard to get into, clubs in university because we need to survive in certain way. So when I listen to the panel, I'm really happy to hear your story, but I don't rely to it. And I was like, so there is no opportunities for people like me there? If there is, what advice can you give or share with me to better work in a resume and land an internship or get a job?
So just so you know, I have 7 kids, right? And survived as a production assistant with 7 kids. So it's not impossible, but what is key is your domestic support system has to be infallible, because the requirements for working in production are complete and total zero failure. So when your child is sick, when something happens, there's no calling off sick. So you need to make sure that your personal network is there to support you and to help you with all of the situations that occur in production. That means being at work at 4:30 in the morning, working for 16 hours. So it's difficult but not impossible, but you got to have that support. You got to have that domestic support to kind of give you the freedom and flexibility that you need, because this business requires a great deal of flexibility and almost clock-like precision. So if you have that support network, it's well within your capability in order to be successful in this thing. You just need to make sure that you are where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. You're paying attention, you're looking for those angles, and that when it's time to take that shot, your support is there ready for you to help you take that shot. But don't give up. Don't think that it's not possible, because it is. All right, you just gotta make sure that your people are there to back you up.
Can I just add, we have tons of what we call non-traditional students that we work here at Brick. So the same to Kwame, you're not alone. Go upstairs, you'll find other people in your same boat, and we're here to support you.
I'm also a single mom, and my mom helped me. So, yes. So just, yeah, make sure you have a good family support.
Thank you. I will go upstairs because I am a single parent, but I am alone living in this country, no family here. Yeah, that's what it's very hard. Thank you.
Go Africa. Africans, not Africants.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
my name is Corinne Rice. I'm a Brooklyn College graduate, communications major. And my question is for you, Kwame. You mentioned the importance of having positions for those who could specifically work with different hair types, makeups, stage productions. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Share some information about how we can look for those?
Well, I would say it's about creating the interpersonal relationships with the people that are doing that type of work, right? Okay. So maybe you do an indie job with a producer or a director who's just getting started, who is creating those relationships, and then as that person rises, a rising tide raises all boats with it, right? So you just want to make sure that you're connecting with people that you want to work with and that you feel that you have a future with, right? So you can get that experience. And then it's in creating those interpersonal relationships that now when this person, hey, I need somebody to do somebody's hair on this music video. Oh, I remember I worked with this person this last time, and now that's how it works. That's the key to making it through these different steps and to getting that first job.
Interpersonal, got it.
Thank you. So next
Yes,
question.
thank you.
So we only have 5 minutes left, so we know.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelsey. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your insight. This definitely was not available when I graduated in 2011 from undergrad. I'm a music tech student at NYU studying mostly music software development and audio engineering. And I just have a question about how do I use, I'm in the midst of a career change, and I'm wondering if you have any interview resume advice for someone who has like a laundry list of experience elsewhere. I've taken John's experience, I've done the meetups, I built my own home studio for 10 years, which is why I'm back in school. So I'm at the point of trying to land an internship.
Yeah, I would say briefly is, John said it before, what the resume was, I forget, was a rap sheet. Tell a story with it, right? And I think the other brother we were talking about is I'm looking for people who can solve the problem. That was John was saying. Now, I may have a way to solve a problem this way. You got to tell me that because of this diverse sort of tangential experience, I can still solve your problems. So I would just take John's advice and work backwards and say, this is how I'm an asset to you. And I may not be, you may be looking for an audio mixer, and I don't have audio mixing experience. I think the great organizations don't need that one-to-one ratio. It's showing your aptitude to learn, right? Is that I've been around, I've changed careers, I went back to school. So I can learn what I know this and I don't know that, but I have the willingness and the humility to learn. So I think as the storytellers in here, your resume is a story too. It may not be as cool as the segments that these folks are producing, but use that same approach. So I'm reading that resume being like, I get it. It's a winding road, but we're all gonna land at the treasure. So I would just be aggressive and you feel like I don't like your energy of being like, well, I'm a little, stop that. Just say like, I can do this. And then start your conversation. Don't, you too much second guessing in it, because trust me, there's a lot of people working, they don't have it all lined up either. You got it, you got this under
So I'm
control.
gonna add one more thing to that.
You got
I know
it.
we're at time. Branding. It's all about how you brand yourself, right? Like you can come from many different walks of life and then brand yourself as something that's unique to the industry, right? I didn't know anything about video, but I was like, I'm gonna learn and then I'm gonna figure it out. And my journey to being a creative director is very different than your typical one, but my production background informed my decisions as a creative director, and I use my production background to inform how I create ideas. That was literally the pitch that I gave to the people who gave me this job. Brand yourself.
Okay.
Thank
so
you,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
One more question? Is that okay? One, two more questions? Okay, 2 more questions, guys.
Hi, how are you today? I just have a quick, easy question. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. For someone who's kind of late in the whole internship and trying to find a job in the whole career, from me changing from computer science to digital media, I was kind of at a late start in the whole career process. How does one rebrand or restart themselves from one to another?
What makes it late? Like your age? Because none of that's relevant. Like I don't care when you started or what age you started at. All I care about are your skill sets, your abilities, your diligence, your timeliness, all of the things that if you have all the building blocks, it doesn't matter when you start. And in fact, what I like to do is take people who are making career changes and then see what relevant skill sets they have based on the things. So you did computer science, that lets me know that you're very good with tedious tasks and very good with, highly detail orientated. Like I'm gonna take away from your skill sets the things that are relevant to what I'm doing now. But don't put yourself at a disadvantage by saying that you started late, because there's no time clock on this. There's no start gun for this. Whenever you decide to jump into the marathon and run, that's when you run it. That's when your time starts.
You're the only one that thinks you're late.
Gotcha. Thank you, I appreciate
Also, I don't know what late is, because now I
And
feel
then
really old.
I just want to say that to like the other sister was saying, that a computer science person who wants to get into production, I'm like, I actually want to talk to that cat.
Right.
Because that's kind of weird, but the weird is when the good stuff comes. The
Well, that's
verticals
branded
are
as
the
production
verticals are
with a background driven by analytics and sciences.
Yeah, see, that's good.
Let's go. Yeah. That's how your resume stands out. I'll tell you that.
Hello. My name is Lucrecia. I'm a student journalist at Stony Brook University in my junior year. And first of all, I want to say thank you to you all, because you are the people we need to look up to, and also because you guys are the people you needed at the beginning of your career. I was talking to Crystal about it early during the networking event about this trend of Latinos and Hispanic Latinos slowly increasing to reclaim their indigenous heritage, but due to the fact, you can see it in the census, like they said Hispanic, Latino, and then they added race at the bottom. And a lot of people didn't know what to answer. And one of the reasons why is because of colonization of South America, especially the Spanish Empire. So I like to advocate. I'm very passionate about reclaiming my indigenous identity. I was born and raised in Peru. So my grandparents were from really high in the mountains, so they were like indigenous people living with their own culture. And now I want to implement that in my own in my work. However, due to this, like, it was prohibited before, so it's like really ingrained in the ground, let's say, like, or identity as Native Americans is like really very. So now, have you ever dealt with not having like an audience to sell to, or like not knowing how to increase awareness of this because it's not profitable, like, because it's like media is a business. So it is hard if you don't have, you know, an audience to listen to you.
Make your art. It sounds like you're very passionate about your art, and you're worried about how to commercialize it, how to monetize it, but that's not what drives your passion. Your passion is the art. Make the art, make the thing that you feel is in your heart, and then the audience will find you. The audience will find your work because it speaks, people will understand and recognize your passion, and they might not understand your subject matter, or they might not have a personal connection to it, but if it's passionate and it's real, people will get it. They'll get it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Christine. I'm so sorry. I can't see anything over here. Like, so.
Hi. All right, I was supposed to be a part of this panel. My picture.
Hi, Christine! It's Christine!
Hello.
She made it.
First of all,
so nice to
I'm
meet you.
so sorry. So nice to meet you. I want to talk to each and every one of you. I'm sorry I'm late. I do work at BET, and we are in the middle of BET Awards, and it's high-stress environments over here for me. But I wanted to introduce myself to you all just quickly. There's a lot of great conversation, and I came about halfway through. I'm a founder, executive producer of Eres, and Eres is my own venture. I am an entrepreneur as well as working for BET as a senior writer producer. Eres is a digital platform that celebrates the power of being you. The question before really sort of intrigued me because our whole platform is to create and center BIPOC intersectional stories, creativity, and culture. We put it at the forefront, and to Kwame's answer, it's create the art and put the art out there no matter what. Someone will buy into it, someone will relate to it, and as long as you do it, the next person that connects to it will be inspired to create as well, and that's what we're trying to do, build that movement of people being inspired by other people's work. So I say that all to say, if you would like to connect with me, I'll be here sort of after the event. I know I didn't get to speak to you all, so I would love to connect with each and every one of you about some of your own ventures and career paths.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I think we're wrapping up, but I think that's a good ending, Christine. I want to connect with you. So we'll end it here. Everyone is available to connect with the students after. If you have any questions, we're here to answer any questions.